Science fiction and fantasy films have become big money makers at the box office in recent years, but the film makers behind films like Star Wars and E.T. have bypassed the works of great science fiction and fantasy writers to put their own visions on the screen. One exception to this is Ray Bradbury, one of the most beloved writers in science fiction, the author of the Martian Chronicles and Fahrenheit 451. Soon we're going to see his novel Something Wicked This Way Comes. It'll be released by Disney and be in a theater somewhere near us, and we understand that Ray's pretty happy about that. Here is Ray Bradbury, and as I said, Graham is a big fan of yours.
Oh, good.
A lot of people in the music business are big fans of Mr. Bradbury.
Why is that, do you think?
Because he deals in the same things we deal with.
Fantasy?
How do we get off this place?
And how do we survive once we do it?
Right.
Now, we all care about the future, and that's what it's all about. We're all moralists, and we'd like to learn how to behave, and it's not easy. So if you can write a good story about it and deal with it metaphorically without pontificating, and we mustn't be self-conscious teachers. No, you can do it with a song, you can do it with a story.
Where do those ideas come from?
They just strike you and knock you down. I'm open to any idea that comes up and bites me on the ankle. And then I just watch it biting me, and then I run to the typewriter. And when I finish writing the story, the bulldog lets go and wanders off.
It's the same with writing songs also.
Mm-hmm.
You could never tell where they come from. The strangest incident could trigger an enormous amount of mental input for you.
Now, both of you write, so what, do you just sit down and start and finish and just don't get out? Of course, I guess
let me give you a good example. My poetry editor for a book I put out 2 years ago called me one day and said, "We have no title for your new book of poetry. What's the title?" I said, "Wait there." So I ran away from the phone, ran to my typewriter, typed out the first thing that came into my mind. That attic where the meadow greens. That attic where the meadow greens. Ran back, spoke it over the phone to him. He says, "My God, that's beautiful. What does it mean?" I said, "I don't know." I said, "Wait there and I'll call you back in 10 minutes. So I ran back to the typewriter and said, "The attic where the meadow greens." It's obviously a greenhouse in the top floor of my old Victorian mansion where I lived when I was a kid. And my grandfather and I raised crops up there of dandelions and sunflowers. On this turf, we play croquet. And under the storms that hit the top of the greenhouse, and then when my grandfather dies when I'm 6, we bury him under the turf with the sunflowers and the dandelions in the attic where the meadow greens. And there's your poem.
There you go, right?
It's unreal.
Who knows where that came from, but you go with it, and you explode, and then you clean up later.
That's right.
Do you get hit with ideas like that also, Greg?
Yeah, and you mentally chew them to pieces. You get struck with an idea, and you may do, sometimes I'm sure Ray's done the same. You don't do anything about it, but internalize it all the time. Then when you go to your typewriter or your tape recorder, a lot comes out, and people go, "Boy, where did that come from?"
Yeah.
But you've been chewing it and ruminating it for a while.
That's right.
Where's the strangest idea ever come to you? Either one of you.
He's got, why, my God, the strangest ideas ever occurred to me.
There's so many strange ones. And I'll give you a good example. When I was 21 years old, I went to my doctor. I had a sore throat, and I said, "Look in there." And he says, "Well, you know what you're suffering from?" And I said, "What?" He says, "A bad case of discovery of the larynx." And I said, "What?" He says, "Yeah, everything's normal in there, but you've never felt the various bits and pieces of your throat and the muscles and the gristle and what have you." And so I left his office, and I went home feeling my skeleton, inside my body, and the medulla oblongata on the back of my head, and my knee bones and what have you, ankle bone. Every place where the skeleton kind of comes on display is strange, your elbows. And I thought, hell, this is fantastic. Why don't I write a short story called Skeleton about a man who has a contest because he's afraid of this Gothic symbol of horror that's inside all of our bodies, a skeleton. Think about that. You got a skeleton in there. You got a skull behind the face. So within an hour, I'd written a short story called Skeleton about a man and his skeleton who compete with each other to see who wins. And the skeleton always wins, of course, at the end, doesn't it?
Well, it's kind of got control over it. Without it, you're a puddle of nothing.
Really?
Well, that's the way the story ends, yes.
Oh, really?
A puddle of nothing, yes, where the skeleton is taken out.
Was that your first?
No, it was 30 or 40 stories in. Yeah.
At 21?
At 21.
Yeah. But I'd started when I was 12, so I did a lot of bad stuff first.
Right.
But have you ever published a group of those stories from
Oh yeah, that's one of the stories in Dark Carnival, which came out when I was 27, and it's been reprinted in a book called The October Country, which has been out around for several years now. So they're all very weird stories, vampire stories and ghost stories and stories about people being in love with people who vanished from the earth.
Did you tell stories as a boy to your friends and stuff?
A certain amount. They had to put up with me memorizing Edgar Rice Burroughs' Tarzan stories and John Carter, Warlord of Mars. And when they saw me coming, they ran because they knew I was going to...
Oh, your friends did?
Keep them there for too long.
Yeah, I was going to talk them to death.
Right.
And the miracle is that I ever made it to be 13. Yeah.
We have a clip from Something Wicked this week. It stars Jason Robards.
And Jonathan Pryce as Mr. Dark, who's fabulous.
All right. We have a little clip that maybe you can set up for us.
Yeah, there's a confrontation toward the end of the film between the Jason Robards character, who's the father, a librarian.
Paper tearing.
I've seen the film many times. I've seen that scene 20 or 30 times, and I'm always impressed by it.
Have you really 20 or 30 times?
Yeah.
Are you happy with it as
Very
a
happy.
writer?
No, the film has turned out beautifully.
Because a lot of times, there have been some of your novels that have been turned into films you haven't been that happy with?
Well, especially when you think of the Martian Chronicles on television 2 years ago.
Fahrenheit 451 wasn't too
Fahrenheit
bad,
was
was
an
it?
excellent film.
Yeah.
But Martian Chronicles is the most boring film outside of Wimps of War that's been on television.
What are you doing? Here's a book that you wrote, a novel that you spent so much time, and all of a sudden you see the finished product that's on TV or in the movies, and you say, God, they ruined it.
Well, there's nothing you can do unless you want to go kill everyone. And you just drink a lot of beer that night and go to bed and promise to protect yourself next
Do
time
better
through.
next time, yeah.
Yes, you get more guarantees, pick your own director, and write your own screenplay, whatever.
Why did you choose a director for this particular one?
Well, I've known Jack Clayton for 29 years, and he was working with John Huston when I went to Ireland to work on Moby Dick 29 years ago. So I know his reputation, I know his films, and I trusted him, and it turned out to be a very good trust.
Trust is the main word here.
Well, thank you for being with us. Hope you can stay for our next guest. Do you have time?
Well, I'm going to have to run because I'm going to a screening of the film.
Oh, now you'll see the scene 22 times.
Yes, indeed I will.
Okay.
What a pleasure, though, to meet you.
Great, thank you.
And to be with you.
A real pleasure meeting you.
Thank you very much.
Can you stay, Graham, for a couple more minutes? Academy Award-winning screenwriter Ernest Thompson when we come back.